Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Glorious Reacts. Before we begin, I would like to introduce ourselves. My name is Arnold, and I'm your friend from Down Under. And I am joined tonight by the Thriller from Manila with a secret behind him. Well done, Joel. Say hi, Joel.
Hey
That's
guys.
that's what you call shadow boxing.
That's wears it every now and then. And our very own Singapore Sling, who's drinking something else apart from Singapore Sling.
Yeah, it's different. It's different.
It's different.
Yeah.
Paul, say hi, Paul.
Hello. Hey guys.
All right. So the Black Widow movie has been showing in cinemas and Disney Plus for well over a week now. As nerds of the umptieth degree, we've taken it upon ourselves to rewatch it, to appreciate it further, and give you, dear audience, a meatier full reaction in today's episode. So today we remove the limitations from last time's discussion and dive into the movie, spoilers and all. We will revisit what we liked and disliked and talk about specifics of the story. So this is a good point in the intro for us to remind you, dear audience, that this is not a spoiler-free episode, and that we will be talking directly about events that occurred in the movie, most of which will be revealing key story elements. So if you have not watched Black Widow and would like to remain unspoiled, please stop right here and come back once you've watched the movie. So let's get right to it. All right, gentlemen.
That reaction. Like, what are you doing with your life? Why haven't you watched the video?
Well,
Yeah.
I can't really for this particular movie. Well, our audience can understand why.
Well, okay, no, but okay. I mean, not diving into the reasons why they haven't watched the movie. It's also because it's really hard to access movie
That's
theaters
true.
nowadays.
Yeah, yeah.
So
you
stay
can only
safe.
actually do it.
Everyone, get
Yes.
vaccinated. Stay safe.
You can only do it. Most people can only do it with Disney Plus, which you can't readily
It's not
do
readily
here in the
available
Philippines.
in a lot of places. Yeah, especially where Joel
Yeah.
is. So, well, that's true. That's true. So that's why I'm not I'm not forcing it upon our audience to try and watch it. But I'm hoping that they have, because they are here and they're listening tonight.
Yeah.
So let's go right into our likes. Maybe it's a good idea, because I'm not sure how much Paul is going to expound on some of these topics. But maybe I can't remember how we did it last time. But I'll start for the likes this time, and then
Of course.
we'll go to Paul, and then Joel has the most. Or no, well, he's just the most detailed. So we'll go with that.
Yeah,
order, right?
yeah, I think so.
All right.
But I think Paul is still going to talk the most.
It's probably the
three of
case.
us.
It's
Yeah.
probably the case. Going back, so I've watched the movie about 3 times now. Once with once with the family, and they actually quite enjoyed it. So it still holds up as a very enjoyable movie for what it is, especially for people who aren't really too deep into the MCU lore, or as nerdy as we do, who look for things we can theorize off. They still found it as a very enjoyable movie. Right off the bat, though, family members quite noted that it wasn't as enjoyable as, let's say, Civil War was, or even Age of Ultron. So there is a pecking order of which one's the better movies, I guess, in terms of the experience. But taken in itself, family members still actually enjoyed it quite a lot. I mentioned that I was intrigued with the potential for the return of some of these characters, and we know that the family did survive the entire ordeal. There was a copious things of dropping from the sky, and we find out later on it's because the Red Room is in the sky. And Melina, Alexei, Yelena, obviously, and Black Widow and Natasha, obviously, because of the movie she continues on to show, does survive. But it was more of I'm very intrigued with what will happen with Melina and Alexi, especially since they have taken it upon themselves to sort of help the remaining Black Widows, especially those who are probably still trapped under the influence of Dreykov and his mind-controlling drug. I fully expect. We'll get into that in the expectation, but the prospect of them showing up again is pretty good, and I'm kind of excited. Particularly the Red Guardian, although I don't expect the Red Guardian to show up on his own, more because I think he's much better as a part of a team. The way that he actually worked with mostly Melina was very intriguing. They have this family moment right before he faced off with something because he wanted to break something, and Melina pointed. He's essentially like a blunt bludgeon weapon, and that needed to be pointed towards something, and he pointed at Taxman. That's something you can break, and it was pretty cute. The way that they were bouncing off of each other, and then the last quip, right there, turning behind, saying, "Well, if this is the last time we meet," and then obviously Melina was no longer there. He's just so funny as this dad figure. He seemed to be perfect. Yelena, we already know we'll be seeing more of her, so the setup for her in this movie was really good, and the way that we will see her in the future makes it more exciting. Going over to the theme, I mentioned that the theme of family created a very fun and adorable arc. I now believe that the stronger theme of the movie, the one that more people would actually enjoy, is the family theme. Not necessarily Black Widow clearing out the red in her ledger. That seemed to be more of like the side plot now, or the more minor of the plot. It's weird because obviously the reason why the story was moving was because she was trying to get to the Red Room, and she just kind of like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go ask for their help, was because she knows she can't do it by herself. But in the end, that was for me felt to be the better parts of the movie. Alexi's dad moments were great. Everything from the weird, trying to fit into his old uniform, trying to look like he's still in the prime despite not being so, being really bad at it as well when trying to fix problems. I'm going to talk to her, and obviously it makes things more worse. But everything from that to the nice ones when she actually sings to Yelena.
If you can call that singing, yeah.
If you call that singing, it was actually pretty adorable. Granted, I definitely can't sing much better. But the things the father would do to try to make his children, feel not as upset, right? And then obviously we got some minor details that was in hindsight was great. Was great again. It's just proof that Feige knows what he's doing in planting some of these details. That kind of like, what the hell is that? But we never really wondered about it because we have to agree that not a lot of people were looking at Black Widow in the first Avengers movie, for example. Not looking in a sense of wondering why these particular details were showing up. But now in hindsight, remember that discussion that she had when she was interrogating Loki in that little bubble that they created for her for him in the helicarrier? And she was doing this sort of like reverse psychology when she was trying to goad him. Loki was becoming extremely mean, and but she was playing her, and one of the things that Loki didn't mention was Dreykov's daughter as one of the things that was sort of like was one of the red in her ledger, and now we finally get to understand what that is. And obviously how she ended up looking the way she did in Infinity War, which actually bothered me. I have to be honest. It was like, what? Why? It did. I was wondering why she.
Because she didn't have red hair.
No, because she didn't have red hair and was straight. She had a nice straight cut, blonde hair. And the change of the vest was not as important, I guess. But now we understand it's actually quite important because of where she got the vest from. And that's pretty much it. There's no change in my hype level. It's still pretty much the same. Oh, one thing I do want to add to my good, and I will have to bounce off of one of my dislikes and just have to highlight one of the dislikes I noted previously without getting into too much detail last time was that some of the characters were sort of like poorly developed, poorly utilized. One of them is the Taskmaster. The other one is Dreykov. And Paul, I know that you've already noted how this is one of those instances when we had bad MCU villains. Upon rewatching the movie, it took me a bit, and unfortunately, I'm not sure if this is something that with just a single watch you will get, but I now appreciate Dreykov a bit more as a villain. And really quickly, the constraints with Dreykov having to exist in a point in time when we already have a solid story in Civil War and a solid story in Infinity War, all right? There was very little room in trying to explain why this guy who seems so powerful, so influential, slipped under the radar, right? And the way that they explained why Dreykov managed to be so powerful yet be so unseen, I actually appreciated after a few more watching. He's the type of character who lives by hiding. One of the things that Natasha regularly tells him is that he's a coward, and he actually is. He hides behind women. He needs to control women because he needs something more stronger. He knows he's not strong. He thinks that he's powerful and strong. He rattles on and says, Natasha tries the same technique that she did with Loki on Dreykov to try to get access to the database, and in doing so we see his anxieties, his insecurities, and that section made me appreciate Dreykov more because they are at the very least the writers, because they were able to squeeze a sleazebag of a guy who has so much influence, so much power, without affecting Civil War, any of the movies before, or any of the movies after, which is like, okay, props to that. And actually, so I actually wanted to highlight that as something I really liked. That's pretty much it. On to you, Paul.
I don't know how to follow that. That's a lot of information.
Oh, really?
Okay, so I'll just go on ahead. So I wrote down I like Natasha in the movie just because we get to see more about her background. In a way, the time she spent with Clint in Budapest. Why it's so significant to them, and why it's significant to her, turning over a new leaf, so to speak, because that was as she said, it was the last act of before her full defection to S.H.I.E.L.D., as she put it. So I like that we see notes of her life before she became an Avenger, but not a full origin story. So it's because I don't want to see an origin story,
okay.
but I still got to see those aspects of her life before that. Right. So it's actually the movie was made such a way that it's not an origin story. It's a continuation of her life, but it just has elements of the past written into it. So it was pretty good. It's a good back and forth. I also wrote down the family, which I think Arnold emphasized on a lot already. And together with that, and this is gonna be in my dislikes as well, I like and dislike the scene wherein they're around the dinner table. when they're trying the reunion scene. I both like and dislike that scene, and I'll explain the dislike part later on. But I like that after all the time apart, they still kind of functioned like a family around the dinner table.
Yes.
So the scene is the banter, the Natasha, don't slouch, listen to your mother, eat something. So it's weird because it's three out of the four knew it was a cover, but still the way they interacted was it looked like that they took it to heart. They still had like that family chemistry. And so even though it was a cover, and even though they don't admit to one another, I guess not until the end, right? Because in the end, Natasha admitted to Yelena that for her it was real as well. I think it was real for all four of them. It's just harder for adults to admit that they're wrong about something, right? They don't wanna, in front of the kids, they don't wanna say.
You think
like,
that's why we don't get that kind of no admission. There's no admission, yeah.
Okay. But still, in their heart, they also felt the same way that Natasha and Yelena felt. So, and I think that it's the only way it would work for me, at least, because then you'd have to think that if they really didn't feel anything, then what's the point in helping? What's the point in risking their lives to help the two?
Yeah.
Right, achieve their goals. So that was good. The family. This is small, but I love the way that Yelena takes jabs at Black Widow for her pose and still does the pose at the end.
She tries it out.
Yeah, she does. She lands and does the pose, and then she does that. Immediately goes like, ugh.
She finds it gross
because she did it, and it's like, oh my god, why did I do it?
Exactly.
I think that's what happened.
She wanted to validate that it's actually her observation is actually true.
So I like that. I like that part. Okay, so I like Taskmaster, and I like that it's someone we haven't seen before. It's just that the reveal for the identity. I think if you watched it carefully, like the movie as it went along, I think you'd probably figure it out. I didn't figure it out, but I like that it's not someone we've seen before. That's my whole point in saying that I like Taskmaster.
Okay.
I like that the character they put in as Taskmaster is not someone we've known from the very start. So it's someone new, and that's good because it means that it's a character that we can see grow. They didn't put just anyone. I think they put an actual actor.
Yeah.
I don't know who she is, but I don't think she's just anyone, right? So, and then the last like that I have is Rick Mason. I actually like that his character.
That guy needs a little bit more love, right?
Yeah. He just wants love, man. He just wants to be validated. But I like his character. As a contractor, I just felt that I needed some more scenes with him. But I guess he served his purpose for the movie. He can come back. I mean, he can come back in any of the others anyway in Phase 4.
I feel the same way.
Yeah.
He could have been used a bit more. Maybe I should put him down as a.
He doesn't even have to fight. Just because his way of providing the equipment, the support, and everything. It's actually very engaged. I mean, for me, as every time he's on screen, it's like, oh, this is cool. I mean, he had this personality trait that I really like. Like he's happy-go-lucky but still serious.
Yep.
In a way. So and he's very dependable, and that's how
he's extremely how the hell did he manage to steal a Quinjet? Right? It's not exactly something that you leave.
He's got a guy.
He's got a guy, his name's Hulk. This is the Quinjet that Hulk stole.
So so those are my likes. On to you, Joel.
Okay.
Kept it short for you. Kept it short for you.
Wow.
So
this must be the alcohol. Wow.
Good chow.
This must be the alcohol.
So yes, it does seem that I'm gonna be the one who's going to talk a whole lot. So my first thing that I liked was really well, while you guys pointed out the family theme, because I think that resonates a lot with you guys because you're both family men. I'm not. So the theme that I picked up that I latched onto even more was the theme of the whole thing about the violence against women and children, especially that part, that entire part. But while again, like the theme of family, like like Toretto, like all of the memes that are coming around nowadays, it was really highlighted. Yeah, for me, the violence against women theme that was very much just as important for me, and I think it was better to highlight that theme. If if only, I mean, I'm not to trample on your like, but I think that the family theme was just, for me, it was glossed over. It wasn't. They didn't really. They they didn't We didn't get a lot of things to digest from the theme of family. Meanwhile, we have, I mean, from the opening sequence, not the 1995, but the whole thing with the Smells Like Teen Spirit, the opening, the OBB. From there, you can already see that that's what they want you to look at, and then the whole point of Dreykov controlling all of these women, having exercising control, and even to the reveal of who the Taskmaster was, and then the fact that that person was his daughter, and then he was
nobody's sacred,
controlling her,
nobody's
with the use of a computer chip. Yeah, and then a friend of mine actually pointed this out, that especially with the things that have been happening in Hollywood in recent times, you can really say that Ray Winstone's character, even the look, almost made him seem to be a stand-in for Harvey Weinstein.
Yes,
who is himself like a stand-in for all of the exploitative practices in Hollywood. So it for me, that is what resonated with me, the fact that there was something like that there. And again, because it's a female-led film, I think that they were able to tackle it well enough to be able to and have a resolution for it that was well enough, that was discussed well enough. So that theme for me was really good. Yes,
sorry,
but
just
I do,
really quick,
yes.
Joel, on that one. Did you feel that the way that going on to the resolution, so all of this violence has happened, and the way that the movie ended with what happened to Dreykov and the Red Room, was that did you reckon the movie actually established anything that could be not exactly redeeming, but like a next step for this to make you feel better about what happened to all of this to all of these girls?
I don't have like a ready answer for that, but I think you mentioned it a while ago that the fact that you have this group of widows, and then you've got the Red Guardian, Milena and Yelena, they're out there and they're hoping to dispel all of these women, all of these other widows in the world. I think that is sort of their statement there, that there is that that's the continuing mission basically for the widows, and that's actually something that can be explored later on. And I think that's their statement for that part of it. And I think that it was really well done. It wasn't a hard sell for me. We have to protect the women, and all of that. So it wasn't really like it was still it still went in the flow of the story, because the situation was there are still other widows who are still under the control of the chemical. And it really was a big statement that one of the people who developed the protocol, Milena, is now the one who's helping.
Yes.
right? So there's that.
I wish they actually explored this one a bit more. I'm gonna highlight that a bit more in our dislike. But yeah, cool. All right.
Yeah. So yeah, but I do still see the whole family thing. Especially for me, you guys, Arnold, you mentioned the parents. I like more the chemistry of, especially the chemistry, as actors, as performers, as Scarlett Johansson and Florence Pugh. I think that you mentioned that the banter that they have as sisters, especially the basically the family sequences, the family moments that they had outside of action sequences.
Yes,
that really it created a full character, not just for Natasha, because we were missing some details about her, and then her interacting with these people with whom she had a relationship with in the past created a fuller character for us. But it also created a full character for me on the side of Yelena.
Yeah.
The way that they were bantering, and even that start, even their first interaction, the whistle. We were introduced to the whistle. That's how they greet each other. That's how they find each other. Yeah, and for me, it showed the true center of the story, which is the sisterhood of Natasha and Yelena, which you can translate to, say, for example, the sisterhood of all the widows, and that's why they look after everyone. And I think that this was really pulled off very well by Scarlett Johansson and Florence Pugh. And their interaction, the way that they, going back to what Paul said, Florence Pugh mocking Scarlett Johansson's pose, calling her a poser, all of those things, and then you're such a mom. That one line was so cute. It's how I would imagine sisters would be talking.
Exactly. Like she's definitely a younger sister. The way she reacts or interacts with Natasha, and Natasha is definitely an older sister. Did you remember her word? She was asking, so which one's your bike? This one, and then she drives.
Yeah.
Like,
that's such a
I was like, what? I'm old.
And then even that whole cute sequence where she was describing how cool her vest was to Natasha, and it was like just those moments were so cute, and it developed it showed us the character of Yelena opposite Natasha, and Natasha opposite Yelena. It showed us it created full characters for me,
and we can
it was because of their performance.
And I think we can definitely say now that with Yelena sort of taking over the mantle of the Black Widow character, we have yet to find out what she will be called, but with her being taken, with her essentially being the next Black Widow character, she is extremely different. Which is excellent. I mean, we've seen Natasha in 8 movies. I guess this will be
more. 8 or 10. I think 10.
Or 10 movies already, and we've seen a particular way, a particular Black Widow, right? Very mysterious, very doesn't open up, and then we see that happen. Even in this movie, we don't see her open up that much because of how close she was, she set up all of these walls just to survive being apart from, this family that she ultimately said that it was real for me as well. And then she had a lot of difficulty trying to tear that wall down. But one thing I did remember that sequence when they were fighting in the apartment in the safe house in Budapest. And they were lying on the floor, and you have this look that Natasha does really quickly shows. She decided
it was a decision for her that she was, I think she was at that point, if she just exerted a little bit more pressure, she knew that she was gonna kill Yelena.
Probably.
But she made the decision. She was the one who made the decision not to proceed.
She probably had the upper hand. And she had this look like, I haven't seen you in a while. So she was like super. It was like more of like, I'm so glad to see you. I'm so. It's a combination of, I'm so glad to see you, I'm so proud of what you've been able to do, almost killing me, all rolled in the same look. It was very short, but I really appreciated that she somehow managed to put that in there and showed us that, hey, okay, there's this heart inside Natasha that is more than the Black Widow.
Yeah, Scarlett Johansson rocks, man. But again, Florence Pugh also rocks. I mean, I haven't seen Midsommar. I've only seen like a tiny bit of Little Women, so I basically have not seen her yet.
Yeah,
so this is the first movie that I've seen her on.
Yeah,
and yeah, I can. She is a really really good actress. Yeah, and I really love the way that she pulled this character off. That yeah, we already said it. She's like the younger sister, a little bratty at times.
oh yes, brat. That's a good term.
Yeah, she was a brat.
Definitely.
And to think that for most of the time, I mean, the only time that she got a free thought was when she got sprayed with the antidote. Because I would imagine that aside from that, they were always under the control of the Red
They
Room.
didn't explain when they were actually put under control, but yeah, you're right.
Right. So I mean, you can imagine from the moment that she was taken when she was a kid, all the way until that.
Oh my gosh.
She was So basically, you can even say that she probably was still her 6-year-old self. Right. Basically, so that's why the brattiness would still come out. That's why all of that would still come out. Right. And yeah, and because we never really see anything of it unless they do like a prequel movie with her too, so they keep on moving back until they get back to 1995.
We get to see more of Natasha again.
Yeah, because Kevin Feige said that she wants to work with ScarJo even more
Post
even after
Endgame.
now.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So yeah, and this is going to tread on expectations, but I do like the fact that we can and will probably see the character Yelena in the future as either part of the Young Avengers or
Thunderbolts.
Or the Thunderbolts or the Dark Avengers. Yeah, because she's not that young compared to the other Young Avengers that have been introduced.
Yes.
But yeah, because like I think I've mentioned this time and again that we've seen a lot of the Young Avengers characters introduced throughout the past couple of the past series, no? the MCU TV shows.
Series. Well, obviously, we have an idea.
Endgame as well
because of Endgame. Well, Ant-Man was the very first one that showed us. And then when did we get to see Barton's family for the first time?
Endgame. No, that was Civil War.
Civil War. Okay, so Mike, so what?
Sorry, Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
Which came first?
Age of Ultron because
or Ant-Man?
They went to chopping wood.
Yeah.
Right? They went there to hide.
To hide.
Yeah.
Well, which came first? I would have assumed Age of Ultron came first before Ant-Man.
Yes. Before
Okay,
Ant-Man.
so we got to see Kate Bishop first.
No. We didn't see Kate Bishop. Kate Bishop is
sorry, it's a different character.
Haley Steinfeld.
No, but the character was already there because there was already Barton already.
Kate Bishop is not Clint Barton's daughter.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, that's true.
They're not related.
But have we established? Did they already establish that it will be Kate Bishop in Hawkeye?
Yes.
Hawkeye TV series.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
So the apprentice is going to be Kate Bishop.
So it'll be Kate Bishop. So that means it still falls back to Casey Lang as the first one that they've actually revealed. And
but they've recast her.
Yes. For Quantum Mania, which is unfortunate. I actually like the older.
So you're saying it's a variant.
They can explain.
So are we also saying that the Don Cheadle character
is
also a variant?
It's a variant.
What's his name? Theodore. Oh, the very first.
The first one.
The first Rodney. Yeah.
Oh, Terrence
Howard.
There you go. Howard. Yeah, so we can say that he was a variant.
So after Iron Man 1, everything has been a separate timeline.
No.
That's when He Who Remains established the sacred timeline.
That's when He Who Remains.
That's why Terrence Howard changed to Don Cheadle. That was the switch.
Yeah.
Don Cheadle was part of He Who Remains' timeline.
Yes.
So he
became
needed
the
Don
secret
Cheadle.
timeline.
The
Oh
Don
no, okay.
Cheadle.
Let us not muddle this
Terrence Howard
conversation.
got pruned. Terrence Howard got
Let us
pruned.
not muddle this conversation with that stuff because obviously not a lot of people, we may not have audiences who've watched that
You know
show.
who else got pruned?
Who?
One of the 3 heroes in Asgard.
Oh yeah.
Huh?
Because he went into another universe.
He went to the DC universe.
Yes.
These deals. These deals.
He went to the DC universe and became.
And there was another guy who got pruned. Another guy got pruned.
This is not a low-key conversation. Let us not continue.
Edward Norton got pruned.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So anytime there's a recast in the MCU,
There's
you
an
always say
explanation.
they get pruned.
So
They got pruned.
in that case, what's our conversation with Minerva? Because she did not get recast. She changed personalities altogether and became an Eternal. Oh my God, you guys don't know about this. It's the same-
Why? What was she before?
Minerva from Captain Marvel Minerva, the Kree, the part of verse.
Gemma Chan, right?
yeah.
Gemma
Gemma
Chan.
Chan.
Gemma Chan.
She was the like the
sharpshooter.
sniper rifle.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
sniper rifle.
So
She's
anyways,
a variant too.
she, there's two of them. There's a doppelganger.
There's
Yeah,
two of
there's
them.
two of them.
One was born a Kree, the other born an
Yes.
Eternal.
Yes.
There you go. Explain.
Yes.
All right, let us reel this back in, guys, into our dislikes. This time, let's start with Paul.
Dislikes. What did I? Wow.
Wow, you have a
short.
lot, man. You have a
So
lot.
short. Okay, so it's I don't want to go into detail about why the villain is so bad.
No, this is our
Right.
Yeah, this
so,
is
might as
okay,
well.
fine.
Yeah.
So for me, okay. Well, now that Arnold actually brought up very good points, and I don't think it's convinced me that
I thought you were gonna recant.
No, I wasn't. He's still a bad villain. I believe he's still a bad villain in a way that. Well, actually, wait. Let me go to my second dislike first.
Yeah.
So, I feel like the reconciliation, and I've told Joel this. I felt that it was too short. So, and
No,
the way I explained this was that reunion where that reunion in the around the dining table at Melena's place, where they were telling stories and remembering things, right? And then suddenly after that, they each have their own moment with each parent, and then after that they worked as a unit. So it was, for me, it felt too fast, too quick. Like if you I don't think that works that way. It doesn't feel natural. Now, the reason why for me is because when Yelena was saying it felt real for her, the 3 years they were together, that part, I would have wanted that the years they were together, so the years that they were as an undercover family, I wanted that to be longer.
Yeah.
It just adds more, it just becomes more realistic. So what I wanted to what I felt that should have happened was, it's okay that they at the start of the movie they just showed them flying into Cuba to get away from the US because they got what they wanted already. That's fine. But the years that they spent in the United States should have been longer, just so it would have been established that they have grown to be more cohesive as a family unit. Because I don't feel like 3 years is enough. Like, it just doesn't feel like long enough for. Remember, she was 3, right? Yelena was 3, and then she spent 3 years. Yeah, it could have been the most influential 3 years of her life, but
Exactly.
it just felt too short. I mean, I'm not asking for a lot. Maybe 5 years. It feels a little bit more rounded. Like 5 years would have felt more rounded as a number of years spent together as a family undercover. So that's why because it was only 3 years, I felt that everyone getting forgiven, all the things that happened getting forgotten and them working together felt very fast, and it felt very instant.
Right, yeah.
Didn't feel natural enough because, first of all, they weren't together that long as a family. Three of the four knew it was fake, and there's actually practically nothing holding them together if they're all three of them knew it was fake, right? And I think that time Natasha already went through undergone.
She had already been to the Red
Room, yeah. So it didn't feel like, it didn't feel natural that they would have forgiven each other after right? And the second is, if they did forgive each other naturally, it was maybe because all three out of the four were already at that time agents, and they would have felt, yeah, I mean, we can work together, you can be professional. But then that removes the family aspect of it.
Yeah.
It just says that, hey, we're all professional, let's do the professional thing here and kick his ass and then go home. It doesn't feel natural. So for me, that's why I say I like it a lot, that scene, but I dislike it because it just doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel like it worked. It should have worked.
I have a thought. If you would allow me to just add it real quick.
Yep.
Maybe that's why it felt so unnatural, especially for the three, is because they knew it was fake. But it felt, and maybe the only glue that actually kept the three together is Yelena, being the only one who actually was young enough to believe that the entire family setting was actually the real deal. Even if in the back of her head, maybe she knew, she was so young that she wanted or she needed the family to actually be true, because it was their like what you said, maybe that was the three most influential, most happiest parts of her life. I don't expect that going to the Red Room would be a very happy thing. And the same thing for Natasha. Maybe it was the happiest she'd ever had because she's never had anybody. She's had a little sister. She knew her parents weren't real. And maybe that she was old enough to say, I don't care. But with Yelena, since Yelena was genuinely enjoying her time with her big sister, make-believe big sister, and make-believe mommy and daddy, that maybe it was Yelena was the only thing that actually made the entire family unit work. So even if the three still have their hang-ups against each other, it's because Yelena was like, well, I don't have a hang-up. Let's go back to this thing that we wanted. And you can see that. There were bits and pieces of that. I do agree, though, that it's still very contrived, still very... It was a lot quicker than... so it didn't feel very natural. Obviously, this was a limitation with how they budgeted the time and the film.
It was the medium. I mean,
the medium.
They didn't have the luxury of 6 to 10 episodes to flesh out what happened to the family.
And they opted to budget all of their time on the flashy
the flashy last act.
Exactly. The flashy last act.
The whole,
So, but maybe that's it. Maybe there's that. It's not gonna change the fact that it's a dislike. I totally agree. It's still too fast.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of just something that came up to my mind right earlier with how Joel mentioned that the way that Florence portrayed Yelena as this brat, as this character who just suddenly showed up after years of not being able to have free will, right? She had free thought, but she probably didn't have free will. Now bringing it all out, the moment that her older sister shows up, she wants to show off her vest, right? She shows up, so there's this genuine innocence somehow still there, despite being a killer, that just comes back up.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, what Paul has been saying actually goes into my dislike about the whole pacing of the whole film.
Yep.
Because it really goes too fast. It was so from point A to point B to point C to point D. Okay, we need to get point E in the most economical way. Okay, let's do this, do that. Let's gloss over this. Okay, that needs to happen just so that it explains point D.
Yes.
Right. So and we're not allowed to stew in a specific plot point long enough for it to become actually believable, like the whole family scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's been 21 years since the scene in Cuba,
right,
and the events of the film, the present day of the film. And then all of a sudden, Milena, who's been still working for 21 years, plus for the Red Room.
The Red Room.
And then all of a sudden, her three former fake family members appear, and then she suddenly feels a tinge
attachment.
of, okay, I'm attached to these people again. And she even goes around to show off oh, look what I developed. I can kill the pig with just one swipe.
Yeah.
Right? And then right after that, she was able to reconcile with Natasha. She was able to plant an earpiece on Yelena, which we didn't actually see happen, but I mean, it just happened for some reason. Right?
It's one of the MacGuffins.
Yeah. It was like, the pacing was really weird. And again, I think also we've become spoiled because we've had 3 MCU TV series where everything can be explained, everything. Although there were still some pacing issues in some of the series, but we have a slow burn. We're able to get a full explanation why things happen in a certain order. That when we go back into the movie medium, it's a little jarring, but then again, it's still you can't really explain it away with just that. There was still a lot of tightening that they could have made in order to for the pace to just be right, but and for the story to be told better. Yeah. Sorry, I was I trampled.
No, that's fine. My final dislike is just the villain. The villain was not as compelling. But thinking about what Arnold said, and this is not because of the timing of him being in between Civil War and Infinity War. So it was between the Avengers imploding on themselves versus Thanos incoming, right? Coming into the to retrieve the stones. I think that I guess I didn't have any expectations. I just didn't have any knowledge on like who the Black Widow villains are, right? So actually I don't read Black Widow comic books. But and thinking about what Joel mentioned about the emphasis on women violence against women. Violence against women. I think he was the proper villain to be shown in the movie. It's just that I don't have any background on the Black Widow villain, so I don't know a lot. Zero. I know zero. And so he kind of just moves the plot forward for me. And serves nothing else. So and I guess it's okay because it's a one shot. Like it's a standalone movie and it doesn't need like because in the end we all know what happens next, right? They're supposed to be freeing all these other women and having them, go letting them live their own lives. So I think in the meantime, he served as the proper villain for the movie. So it might not be as bad as maybe Ronan the Accuser, because at least
Ronan the Accuser lived.
He got to touch an Infinity Stone.
Wait, what? Did he live? No, he didn't. Lived, right? He's dead.
Oh yeah, because Captain Marvel was like a prequel too. So
yeah. Ronan the Accuser got beaten in a dance-off, right? He died.
The power of friendship. The power of family. Oh, another movie about family. I would just really quickly want to jump off of this one. So Dreykov I think you're right. He served as a way to move the plot forward, but at the same time, I think their goal was, given the constraint, how do we create a villain that is hateable enough for Natasha's well, for the whole family actually, their action to mean something, right? And they almost did it. They almost did it with Dreykov, but unfortunately, he's still ultimately forgettable. This is just me teasing it out. This is just me after watching the movie 3 times, which I don't think a lot of people will do. So it's unfortunate. I could see the seeds there. I could see how they would. His acting was actually amazing. It's really good. He comes off as this perfect sleazebag.
Yes,
that you really want to punch in the face, but because of pheromones, you can't.
I don't think it works on you. I think you can punch him.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a
Well, he
widow.
can't,
I
because
wouldn't be able
Dreykov
to
is a
get to
fictional
the
character.
red room.
No, I mean if he was real and Arnold was in front,
There
he could have punched
are
him.
no male.
It doesn't work on men, I think.
There are no male Black Widows. So
Black Widowers?
Well,
Then they'd be
the victims.
Wait, no, they can't be Black Widowers.
Why not?
A widow isn't a widow for
The widow
women?
is the woman.
Widow is for women.
Yes, the
Widower
widow.
is for men.
Yes, there you go.
Oh, okay.
Is
I
that-
thought there was a different term for it.
No.
Are you looking for
Widower.
Anyway,
Anyway, here we go again.
so they were trying to build him up to be ultimately so that he's not you don't just forget about him like with a lot of other bad MCU characters. Although Ronan the Accuser we do have not forget because Lee Pace is amazing.
Yeah.
So they were trying to build him up to be this character that you would want to hate at the very least for the length of the movie. And I think if you really sort of latch on to that violence against women, violence against girls, taking advantage of these people who have nothing by giving them something, but it's ultimately a terrible deal, right? Where they don't have any agency. You would really grow to dislike his character, but Paul and Joe has already pointed out the pacing of the movie does not allow us to do it.
Yeah. I personally would have wanted Dreykov to survive, but then again, no one really dies in comics, so you never know if he's still alive.
Yes.
Come
we
back.
just saw his eyeglasses fly out.
Yeah.
But we don't really there wasn't any confirmation whether he lived or died. So
He survived a freaking bomb in his office.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right? So you never know. He might still be alive, and then if they pursue a continuation, a spin-off series or whatever with the family, right? You know, with Alexei and Milena and the widows, going around the world. It would be fun. I don't know if fun's the right term, but it would be cool if I don't know if cool is even the right term. if they still have this unseen enemy who turns out in the end to be still Dreykov.
Dreykov coming
Right,
back
who's-
as Deathlock.
Yeah.
Oh, that's horrible. That's horrible. Please don't do that.
Or as Modok.
Oh no. Gosh.
No, not Modok.
Yeah.
He'll be back as the Crimson Dynamo.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because Russian.
Oh, it's the Russian.
Yeah, that could be true.
Joel, go ahead with your dislikes.
Okay, yeah. So yeah,
We've already started
for
with your
me, well, I
praise.
already said the first one, the thing about pace, no. Yeah, I really didn't
Not
quite.
Lee-Pace.
Not Lee Pace. Lee
Not
Pace is
Lee-Pace.
cool.
Yeah.
Lee Pace is cool. I really didn't quite get how Yelena knew that the vials were going to Natasha from Budapest,
Yeah.
and how the Taskmaster found out that the vials were with Natasha.
Yep.
And then some of even I mean, that whole thing with the helicopter falling all of a sudden right after Alexei says no, we'll reach there, and
It's
then
a-
cut to
It's essentially
it was such
it's essentially
it was-
just a vehicle for the dad moment.
yeah but it was such a it felt out of place for me. It felt
Right.
out of place in that because we were being treated to a sort of a Bourne identity, a Bourne series, a spy
Escape.
movie,
Right.
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden we have this. Yeah, we have that.
I think they don't want you to forget it's an MCU movie.
Oh gosh, I wish that they would. I wish that they would.
It's
Because
very
that's
formulaic, right?
It is very much a formula. That's part of my point. You know, it's very typical MCU fare. You create something compelling or something interesting for the first 2 acts, and then you go into a huge CGI fest in the last act, and then usually your antagonist, your villain dies, and didn't really affect the story as much towards the end.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been cool to have Dreykov escape. It would have been cool to, or maybe if he was beaten right there in his office, right? Didn't even get a chance to get on the helicopter or whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
We did, for it to be more personal, basically, rather than it blowing up into this huge CGI fest, which has become a formula for MCU movies.
Yeah.
Right? Because in a way that is what the Black Widow film was.
It was personal.
It's like it's a more focused, more personal story. So it would be nice if the story actually ended in a very personal, very tight.
If Natasha gave the beat down on without being interrupted, that would have been
Right.
interesting.
Yeah, or say for example, so the whole thing with all of the widows still happens, but I don't know, Yelena's able to deploy the antidote faster.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, something to make it more contained rather than it blowing up into that whole falling out of the sky thing. It became too much of a like what Paul said. They wanted to remind us, oh guys, this is an MCU film, huh? Remember, this is MCU.
Helicopter.
Something gigantic
Helicopter
has to
falling down, and we've got a whole lot of skydiving and a whole lot of CGI battles going on.
of
right?
soldiers
So
falling to their deaths but deciding to shoot at the end.
to shoot at wow, so cool. Wow.
The helicopter falling, I had to hold this bit. It suspend. It cannot work. It cannot work. It broke physics.
It broke me away from the whole. Okay, we've got a mission. We're on a mission. And suddenly,
Maybe it was a controlled
They
landing.
walked the
I don't
whole
know.
way back.
Maybe it was a controlled crash.
it really took away from me. It took away. It took away from
Definitely out of
my buying into the film, because I was starting to get there.
Yes.
And there was this whole cool sequence in the Seventh Circle cell, right? Where Alexei was, and then all of a sudden we have this again. They're reminding me. We're funny guys. So my other dislike, Paul didn't like Dreykov. I actually didn't like Taskmaster, or at least their treatment of the character. I don't really follow the Marvel comics, so I only saw a little bit of who the Taskmaster really is in the comics. But I mean, the ability that ability was so cool. Photographic reflexes. It is such a cool ability that no other supervillain has ever displayed in the comics. But what they did in the movie, they explained it away. Okay, it's a microchip that is placed on the base of the skull, and then the Taskmaster is able to record the moves that she sees. So
she has the weird bionic eye thingy.
Yeah, it diminished
the visor?
the whole thing.
Actual eye.
Yeah.
Was it her eye? I thought it was the visor.
No, the visor is like her
like her HUD, her field of vision.
UI, her HUD.
Okay.
But that's where she was getting all of those like the whole directives from Daddy to go for the vials instead of fighting Natasha and all of that. But it was so.
It was frustrating how they
treated Taskmaster.
I think that's also an MCU thing. Unfortunately, they have to explain certain abilities.
I think it's an American thing, actually. That's American film thing. I mean,
American film. Okay,
like
okay.
we've seen it in Ringu, and then when you have Ring in America, the American adaptation,
Right.
the whole supernatural idea is explained away. But this
Oh.
one, this is explained away through technology.
Mm.
It was so the whole superhuman ability was taken away. Right?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, he became the character, the Taskmaster character became less cool. It diminished his coolness, and just for the sake of making sure that again we go back to the trope that I've been talking about ever since we started Loki. The trope that your one of your villains has to have a connection with your main character.
Yeah.
They make sure that there's a connection there. It's
Mm.
what's her name? Antonia,
Yeah.
apparently, whom Natasha supposedly killed in her last act before becoming a Shield agent, right?
Yeah.
And this next point of mine in my dislike for Taskmaster was actually pointed out by a friend of mine, Jiggy. He actually telegraphed that it was going to be the actress Olga Kurilenko who was going to be Taskmaster, because when they introduced the cast of Black Widow in a con,
Yes.
Olga Kurilenko was actually already introduced as an unnamed character.
Oh.
But we never see her,
Yeah.
despite the fact that she is the person who can probably speak the best Russian. She was never used. So and then she ends up not actually having any Russian lines.
Yeah.
So
You don't even hear her Russian accent when she says,
We don't-
"Is he
yeah.
gone? Is he gone?" It's like,
Is he
oh.
gone? It's like, yeah. So it was sort of telegraphed because of that. So for me, she became underserved. The character, the actress became underserved.
Well, for now.
That is our
For
hope.
now,
That is our
for
hope.
now. Or probably, yeah. It's our hope that.
And the reason why I say this is because Taskmaster is a big part of
Avengers. Actually.
Dark Avengers. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. So there. It's and yeah. I'll rattle off my last one. I think that Melina would still have been a better Taskmaster.
But this is the theory, right? That was like a long time
that was
ago theory.
a lot of the theories out there had been talking about Melina, and that was the one that I really liked the best, because the mother-daughter connection would have been stronger for me. And then it would have, and she already had a character in the comics that approximated who the Taskmaster was in the film, and that is the Iron Maiden. She was Iron Maiden in the comics. Melina was Iron Maiden in the comics. So what they could have probably done was that the Taskmaster could have been a protocol, the Taskmaster protocol that was inspired by this guy who actually had the superpower of photographic reflexes. So they tried to translate that into the microchip, right? So and then that would be how they explain that away.
And they didn't use
and then seeing, say for example, Melina turn at the towards the end and actually becoming Taskmaster, Iron Maiden Taskmaster, having a chip in her back, right? That would have been a big twist.
This sounds more like how they used Wade in X-Men Origins.
Wolverine.
For Wolverine. So it could go either of two ways, very well or very badly. And the one thing about the Taskmaster also is that they never really explained why. They never really used the reason why he's called the Taskmaster is because he actually trains the people in the Red Room. As we never see that. So it's one of the things also. So it's very poorly, very, very poorly used. So going back, supporting Joel's preference for Melina actually becoming the Taskmaster. Melina being an older Black Widow would have been perfect, right? Because she could easily train these younger generation of Black Widows. She being a Black Widow herself. I don't exactly have a lot of dislikes. It's very different from you guys. I also thought that the pacing was off. One thing I was kind of disappointed was there was very little spy in this sort of spy movie, being Natasha. So they did not really leverage that too much. I was hoping for more of that breakout. The breakout scene was the closest we actually got. Maybe the infiltration of Draco's office, maybe, because she got to use that fancy mask thingy. And the fact that they had to explain away how they came up with this, a la what was those old TV show, Mission Impossible?
Mission Impossible, yeah.
And so we got bits and pieces, but not a lot. There was still a lot. There was still too much. There was a lot more flashy, big budget explosions that will probably be the things that, granted, 007 James Bond does a lot of that, but at the very least, he also does an equal amount of spy things.
Right.
So we've already talked about how they poorly utilize both Taskmaster and from my point of view, Dreykov, despite me trying to come up with a way that we could actually like Dreykov a little bit more. It still falls fairly short.
Your silver lining.
The silver lining, that's not quite there.
Not quite there.
No. I also agree that the family reunion didn't feel as strong. The Yelena's part much more, but because of the lack of time for us to see the actual relationships between Melina, Alexei, and Natasha, we don't feel that, so it does feel a little bit unnatural or contrived. I did not really. There was also that look that Melina had when she first saw the three. She was holding this massive sniper rifle that she could have actually offed any one of them from probably like 800 meters away without them knowing. But she had this look when they first appeared, which is probably the most we got from she getting this motherly reaction. From seeing her former family. Not too much Alexei, but the girls. We can clearly see that. There was also the binder, the picture, the photo album. But that and the look didn't feel enough as well. And so I'm with you guys when it comes to saying that.
And she even had this whole saying about when she parted with Natasha, don't let them take your heart. And then they recall it. How did you not
lose your heart?
Yeah, how did you not lose your heart?
We never really got how that.
It wasn't strong enough. So all of these callbacks were great, but the build up towards that wasn't strong enough.
Right.
The only I guess in the words of Paul, the only real silver lining is that there was a decent amount of the movie that was spent strengthening the relationship between Yelena and Natasha. That will support why we see why the end credit scene was very poignant. Actually felt like how the Avengers felt when they find out what happens when Barton comes back with the Soul Stone. So there was like a tinge of pain again for me when I saw that. And it's like, oh crap, because obviously
sorry, this thought just came to me, but going back to my whole thing of the actual heart of the movie being sisterhood. The actual relationship that you see in the opening sequence wasn't a family, wasn't the parents protecting their kids or the kids not wanting to leave their parents, but the biggest moment in that opening sequence was Nat taking a gun and defending Yelena.
Yes, definitely,
because she didn't want her little sister's innocence to get taken away from her. So it goes back to that, and I think that's one of the strengths really of the whole film.
Yes. So we could actually say that the entire point of the Black Widow movie really wasn't to clear the red in Natasha's ledger, but to introduce us to Yelena.
Exactly.
And not only introduce us to Yelena, establish what kind of character she is and why she is important. Right. Now let's go to expectations. This is a perfect time for us to go to expectations. Joel was the only one who actually wrote down.
Yeah, why am I the only one who has?
So I mean,
something here?
yeah, I was busy preparing other stuff. So let's go with you, and maybe
Okay.
Paul and I will be able to rattle off.
All right. So yeah. The again, just like in Loki, there is always the reach and the more reasonable one. I'll start with the more reasonable one because the reach is kind of entertaining. Personally,
I'd actually like to see the reach.
Yeah. So the more reasonable one is, of course, Paul already sort of mentioned it. But with regards to Taskmaster. So Taskmaster is going to continue to play a role for Dark Avengers. Well, Paul, is it Dark Avengers?
I believe it's Dark Avengers. I might be
yeah.
wrong. He might be part of. She might be part of Thunderbolts as well. So it depends.
Yeah.
It depends on what happens because I think Thunderbolts is coming out first. So we'll probably see her there.
Yeah. So my thing is, Yelena is probably. I mean, she's already set to appear in Hawkeye. But I'm sure. My thing is, she's going to go from. A villain there, and then probably join Thunderbolts. Because continuing her being a villain because she was recruited by Mistress Hydra. What's
Madame Hydra.
Madame Hydra.
Yeah.
So she was recruited. So that's probably where she was getting recruited to. So she's gonna be in Thunderbolts. And then when the Young Avengers, which I think might or should be the tentpole film of either at the end, because that's how they always do it, right? At the end of the phase, that's your tentpole film.
Yes.
That's when Avengers happened, at the end of phase 1. And then so at the end of phase 4, or maybe at the start of phase 5, put out the Young Avengers, have her interact with the Young Avengers, they battle or whatever, and then she becomes the Black Widow of the Young Avengers. So yeah, that's my expectation. That's her, for me. That's the path that I think she's going to take. So that's the more reasonable one. No, not the more reasonable one. The reasonable one.
The one that we can actually see.
Yes, that we can actually think that probably has like 80 to 90% chance of actually happening.
Okay.
Now this other one was mostly because I actually enjoyed the performance of David Harbour. As the Red Guardian, and I actually so this is my reach. So I want to see a prequel series or film about the Red Guardian. Nice. So and I want it to be sort of, because we had Captain America First Avenger way back when.
Yep.
We were introduced to this very selfless character who threw himself on top of a grenade to save the rest of his troop. Just so happens the grenade was a dud.
Yeah.
So I want it, if they're gonna continue with the Red Guardian, and which I hope that they do, a sort of inverted Captain America First Avenger. So you're gonna have this. You're gonna have Alexei. What's his last name? Shostakov,
yes.
I cannot pronounce that.
Alexei Shostakov. You got Alexei Shostakov, and then he's got this very brash, very braggadocious character who like really, he's very uncompassionate, doesn't care about his fellow troop mates, when they're training, and he gets the serum, the super soldier serum, because he follows orders.
Yeah.
Because that's who he is. But I mean, that's how he were introduced. He follows orders. It just so happens that he got screwed because of it. And then we get into the 1980s, because we don't have a 1980s MCU film yet.
We do.
So
not, no.
we cover the Cold War, which is the height of the rise of the Soviet power. So that's where Red Guardian comes in, and it's still a little bit of a spy movie or a spy series where he operates behind in the shadows with Dreykov. At least probably there we're gonna get a little bit more character development of Dreykov.
Yes, because they were
and
pals.
then but the thing is, I want him to almost always win, but in the end something happens and they lose. And so it's really like it's sort of inverted of what happened to Cap. So, and then we would have the whole reason for why he brags about having faced Captain America. So he will probably face someone who is from the US or the UK or any non-Soviet superpower, who sacrifices himself or herself for the sake of humanity. but in the end, it's the Red Guardian who takes the credit. Right? So so that's that. Yeah, I'm already creating the MCU. I'm sure that you're listening to this. Make that movie or make that series, right? So yeah,
just chuck it into the what if. It's fine. Work out.
What if? What if?
Yeah.
No, because
not a what if in the main MCU.
Actual main MCU.
But they don't cross over in the time, 1980. He's still
But
Cap's still in
I'm
Rise.
saying it doesn't have to be Cap.
It
Okay,
doesn't have to be Steve. It doesn't have to be
It
Steve.
doesn't have to be Steve. It doesn't even have to be Isaiah Bradley. He just sees someone who represents America.
There you go.
And so he says, because he wants to embellish everything, so he says that's Captain America.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's actually quite plausible. It's just I don't know if there's enough interest, because we were talking about it earlier. We do get to see one of the members of his cadre. I forgot what the name of the group was. Ursa Major is actually shown. Obviously, in the prison scene where he was doing the arm wrestling sequence. So the guy, the mountain of a guy who he breaks his arm off. Oh my gosh, he was like it was jello afterwards. Is Ursa Major is one of Red Guardian's howling
commandos. No, they're called the Winter Guard.
The Winter Guard. There you go. Yes. So, I mean, it could just be a bone thrown to eagle-eyed nerds, but would be interesting.
The Winter Guard.
The Winter Guard. Yeah. And they one of the members would be, because he could be the front, he could be the propaganda, while the Winter Soldier is the Black Ops guy.
But isn't Winter Soldier Winter Soldier isn't part of the Russian government, right? He's part of the Russian Hydra.
Yeah.
Well, they never explained if the government, the Cold War Soviet government was completely infiltrated by Hydra or not. So
no, not completely. But my assumption is like it is in America. They have agents in place in the political highest levels of the government, but still not in control of the whole government. So I think I think Red Guardian is still working for the actual Soviet government, while the Winter Soldier is working for the Russian cell of the Hydra.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Either way.
Who knows? Red Guardian might have gone up against
Winter Soldier. But he never mentioned it, right? He would have mentioned it if he did.
No, but thinking that Winter Soldier was Cap.
Oh!
Here's another question. And I only bring this up because I saw it briefly in one of the articles. The existence of the Red Guardian kind of like defunks Zemo's claim that he's gotten rid of all super soldiers.
Yeah,
true.
Right? So unless Red Guardian's super soldier serum is actually one of the weaker kinds, because obviously they were using.
I don't think so.
No.
It looks really strong.
Unless because Red Guardian, the Black Widow's movie is a prequel.
Yes.
Who knows? Zemo might have gone after Red Guardian in between that.
Oh no!
Right?
No!
I think the reason why if
that's true.
That might be plausible. That's plausible. But the reason probably why Zemo hasn't heard about the Red Guardian is because he was never really used. I feel like that's what happened.
He has toys. What are you talking about?
No, but toys don't mean it's real, right? It's just propaganda.
Wow. Okay, maybe he
was. So what
really
my
shown.
point was, he was sent
fair.
there. He was never used as a frontline
super soldier.
He was sent to infiltrate, get stuff. He came home. Then he got sidelined by Dreykov, and that was it. Thrown into prison, and then that was it.
Muscle.
So Zemo,
21 years.
what happened when Zemo plotted his revenge? He was never on the radar because he was never significant enough to be on the radar.
Fair enough. He wasn't a threat.
Yep.
Yep.
No, he wasn't
Yeah.
significant. You know what? He didn't know about him.
No.
That's actually a very, very good storyline. If Zemo
his research
discovered the Red
went
Guardian.
into finding 5 frozen super soldiers in the middle of Siberia, but never the Red Guardian.
Yeah, because the Red Guardian was so insignificant. He was so underutilized.
Or just because Alexei is such a nice guy, you know. Even
Yeah.
Zemo says
Probably
that.
talk, you know.
Yeah, got a chat. And then Zemo realizes this guy's a moron. You don't have to worry about him.
This is no threat.
This is no threat. Paul, any expectations?
Expectations. Okay, following the Black Widow movie.
Mephisto.
My expectations for Natasha is she rescues the Avengers.
Come on.
They
Don't do
encounter
that.
Thanos.
That's cheating.
They get beaten down in the first half
Yeah,
of a two
Yeah.
of a two-part
Oh my gosh.
two-part
think-
Avengers movie.
You're onto
Okay.
something,
Yeah.
man. You're onto something.
Yeah.
They get beaten in the first part.
Yep.
Thanos does something really drastic.
Yep.
He achieves his goal.
Yep. He snaps his fingers, you know.
1 year
because-
after we
it's
get
so
the
cool
second
because
film,
he has to snap his fingers because he has a gauntlet thingy. So
yeah,
might as well
Yeah.
focus on that, right?
he gets all the Infinity Stones, uses them full power. The year after we
Infinity
get the
Gems.
sequel,
You got the
Infinity
Infinity
Gems.
Gems. Yeah. It's a gems in the
So it's
MCU.
the next year after, but 5 years in the MCU.
Yes, the next year for us, but 5 years. It's a time skip
Yeah.
in the MCU.
Yeah.
We get the next part of the two-parter Avengers movie,
Gosh.
where they're trying to pick everything that's left of
So compelling.
civilization.
Oh.
I think it's gonna be a hit.
You're onto something, Paul. There's something there, man.
No, but yeah, but I didn't write any expectation. I like that this is a standalone film because we don't get a lot of those. I feel like we do, but it's a different franchise. Sorry, not franchise, but if you take a look at what we have, if it's an MCU film, it has to be somehow interconnected. But in terms of like the TV series that we do get, I like those standalone things, even though they're one shots. But it's very it dives into things like it dives into commentary and you know. When going into this discussion, I didn't actually think about what Joel mentioned. That now he's brought it up. It speaks to what I've been saying, that they did one standalone film. They hit the nail on the head of what they were trying to portray, which is the violence against women. I wish that they would do a lot more of these like solo things that doesn't even have to lead into. I mean, this one does, but it doesn't have to lead into anything huge. It's just like the single story that we can all appreciate. Moving forward, for the characters, I want to see the widows, but I don't know how to title a movie like that.
There's actually a question whether why there was actually a question why we didn't see any of the widows in Endgame.
Because they're operating in the shadows.
I was thinking, I was like, maybe because they were.
Maybe
trying
they got wiped out because Dreykov is still alive and wiped them all out.
Dracos suddenly regained control of all the widows.
Dreykov puts the chip in his back, and he becomes the new Taskmaster.
There you go. Actual
So you mean to say we should have a movie that shows the widows doing what their widows have been doing
No,
during
I'm not
Endgame?
saying that. There's just people actually wondered why we didn't see any of the widows, and I was like, well, do we need to see the widows? Right?
I actually don't need to see all of the, but I want to see what happens to like the whole project of Yelena trying to wake up all the other widows who are scattered across the globe. And it doesn't have to be a movie for me. I think we can it can be an MCU series on Disney Plus, which just closes that.
I think that it would be better that way.
Yeah, just closes that storyline.
Yeah.
Before she gets into like the whole MCU Phase 4 movies. Just I just want that. I want that storyline done before any of these other bigger ones happen. So just so that we we have a resolution to that story. For moving forward, I'm actually very excited with the Thunderbolts movie. I like the Thunderbolts, and I repeatedly have mentioned this throughout our discussion in the past Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier discussions. And them showing us Valentine recruiting Walker and now actually
Runner.
not she didn't recruit Yelena.
That's an Alexei
Yelena
joke.
was already
It's a bad joke.
she's a freelancer. That's what she mentioned, right? It was her day off.
Yeah.
She mentioned that,
Yeah.
right? So she was actually working on her own. So maybe they have she does contracts for her, and probably Zemo, right? So I want to see them team up together. I think it's gonna be a good movie, Thunderbolts.
Oh, Zemo and Yelena together. That would be very interesting. Because I don't think Yelena will ever like Zemo.
Why not? He dances cool.
Yes, but it's just nice. Well done, guys. Does a lot for our viewership. It's just more of the type of character Zemo has. He's the type of character. Yelena feels a little bit more close to the ground. He's a very hands-on, practical. But being a Black Widow, obviously, you're required to do that. And Zemo seems to be just so lofty. Combine the fact that he's a baron, so he's got a lot of money, he's got a lot of connections, he's got a lot of ways to get. He has a lot of ways to, like a VIP passes that gets him into things. Granted, as a widow, as a spy, right? Yelena would probably has the skill to dress up as anywhere, find her, put her name into a VIP list and get in. Anyways, but that requires a lot of skill. Zemo, not saying that he's not very skillful. We haven't seen a lot of it though. He's very skillful with his words. He's very skillful with his contacts, the way he uses that. So it just feels to me that they probably run off each other, which I feel is a great thing. I'm actually quite excited for them to have this interaction.
Yeah. Wouldn't that
she's
make
still
a really cool story?
She is still a brat. So she's a Black Widow who happens to be a brat. And that Zemo will probably find her to be extremely annoying because she seems to be very unrefined compared to Natasha.
If you think about the cast of who's been recruited by Valentina already, it looks like a good conversation if you have three of them together.
Oh, and Walker's been like, yeah,
because I think
Zemo
Elena's gonna hate
talking about?
Walker's guts.
Zemo hasn't been recruited yet.
Yeah, he's just in the raft.
Yeah.
We're pretty certain he's gonna get recruited into the Thunderbolts. Right?
Well, it's because
If only because the Thunderbolts are actually
are
led
his
by.
team. Yeah, it's his team. So
fair enough.
we know for a fact that he's the leader of the Thunderbolts.
That's fair.
But we don't know if he's gonna get recruited into it or it was his idea all along. It was Zemo all along.
Oh, crap! Let's not pull.
And then they're gonna get Agatha.
There's actually a theory
no,
that
I don't
Agatha
want
gets
the
pulled
Thunderbolts.
in.
Oh, I don't want the Thunderbolts having
Magic user.
a sorcerer. Yeah,
No, I don't think that Agatha is gonna be anywhere near it because she's gonna be in. What's that
she's
place?
stuck in that.
She's still
Yeah.
stuck in that pocket universe.
Yeah, packeting. Yeah.
Yeah,
but that's me. I am really just looking forward to the Thunderbolts. And side note, that's the same reason why I'm looking forward to the Suicide Squad. I like those team compositions where they're all like bad guys but moving towards a goal for the greater good.
Very, very anti-hero setup.
Yeah. I like those characters.
Cool. Apart from what we've already discussed earlier, I did hint upon what I'm expecting for Yelena, and we've already hit it with our discussion, so there's no point in actually expounding in it further. That's pretty much it. I think I agree with Paul that this is a very self-contained, very contained movie, and we should just take it at that. So we already know what's gonna happen with the Black Widow character post this movie.
Yeah.
Oh,
my predictions. My
Paul's
predictions.
prediction.
Yeah, my predictions.
That's already happened. And so, and that really, and it doesn't really add anything to that, which is good. There is no need. So I guess one of the things I was hoping for this movie is that it should be that type of movie that you would want to go back to and rewatch, because it enhances the MCU somehow. It sort of falls short of that one. The only thing it really does enhance is for a future storyline, which is where Yelena and Countess Valentina and maybe Melina and Alexei can show up. But apart from that, I think that's it. I think there is no need for us to expect much from the storyline. It could be very well that we will only hear that the rest of the database of Black Widows were dealt with as a side note by Nick Fury, as he always does. You know, just says, "Oh yeah, all those Black Widows, they're all gone.
They're free.
They're free." Right? You know, he just says that. It's the same way as he just tries to look for his slippers. So, and for me, that's kind of okay. I kind of want Joel's reach, because that'd be fun and funny. But I don't think there's enough of us who want to have that.
I mean, come on, David Harbour's like he's already become Hellboy.
Big thing.
I can see that as a Disney Plus series. I can see that as a Disney Plus series.
Yeah.
Because I
They
think
can be as funny as they want with that.
Yeah,
Well, that's
because I don't think they're afraid of experimenting
in the TV
in
show.
Disney Plus. Yeah.
We'll see what Big Daddy Kevin says. So I guess that's it.
Okay, before we wrap up,
Yes.
right? So moving forward, we're gonna be covering the next one that everyone knows about is What If. So that's coming on August. And we're gonna do that week to week as the episodes come out. But the next big movie that we're gonna be covering is going to be The Suicide Squad by James Gunn.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
coming out in 2 weeks.
Is it?
It's coming out next
Oh,
week here in
cool.
Singapore. It's actually coming out next week here in Singapore. So I think it's coming out in the Philippines next week as well.
I wasn't
it's
aware of
has-
that.
But it's coming out in theaters, right?
Yeah, in theaters. It's slated for the 28th.
Coming out in.
And it won't-
28th.
It
I
won't
think.
be streamed, which is a challenging bit.
It will be HBO Max.
Oh,
On Max, not on
Yeah, it's
Go,
on Max,
I guess.
Yeah, no, it's not. So you're gonna have to catch it in the
Ah.
theaters. Theaters.
theaters.
Theaters.
Theaters.
All right.
Or use VPN.
Or HBO Max. Yes, that's right. So a word from our sponsors, NordVPN.
All right.
I was leading you to that.
Let
I
us
was-
rein this in back again. That is it for our full reactions episode in our discussion about the Black Widow movie. Despite the semi-lackluster impressions, it still brought to the MCU a decent story for the Black Widow character that filled in a lot of of question marks. Black Widow is currently in cinemas and streaming in the Disney Plus Premier Access. Thank you again to Paul and Joel for joining me to share our thoughts, impressions, and some of our theories. As always, dear audience, we hope you tune in to our next episode whenever that comes out and continue to hang out
we already
with us.
told them.
Till then, bye.
Bye. See you in 2 weeks.